interesting article come up that I kind of wanted to discuss on the pod, man. Before we get into our power ranking, if you're down, it's
Yeah,
a
please.
it's kind of a passer rating. It was passer ratings this season under 85, and there were 8 quarterbacks that hit this mark. And 85, not good. You don't want to be really under probably 95. It's kind of where it starts to get a little 85 is not great. So I have these 8 quarterbacks here, and I can list them: Mac Jones, Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield, Davis Mills, Kenny Pickett, Carson Wentz, Zach Wilson, and Russell Wilson. Gagan, out of this group, who's salvageable, man? Who do you think is going to be able to make it work? Who do you think is going to be seeing their last downs of football?
Wow, that's if my percentages and my math is correct, that's a quarter of the league, and the quarterback play was that bad from an efficiency perspective. Wow. If I had to take one of these quarterbacks, I might have to go with Kenny Pickett. And I say that in the sense that you can kind of fine tune a quarterback's accuracy to an extent. You can fine tune their preparation, right? So you can elevate a bit of that. But what you can't elevate and you cannot teach is the Tim Tebow factor of winning games and you don't know how they won them. And Pickett had a lot of that this year. And so I maybe go with Pickett because I just can say that with the 1 year sample size, I think he's got more of a room for improvement. We've seen what we've seen with Zach Wilson, right? I don't like him. I don't think he prepares. I think it's also hard to win over, your team, right? So like my 3 questions: would you want to have a drink with the guy? The second question: would the teammates want to have a drink and hang with the guy? And the third is: would you want him as your franchise quarterback? And so of this list, I'd probably go with Pickett because we just don't know. So his sample size of 1 year, all right, cool. Won some games, didn't go 9-8, but the team was able to go 9-8. And you know what? I didn't like his efficiency, but let's see what we can do. Let's get him some more weapons. Carson Wentz, man, I don't want anything to do with the guy. I can't believe he still gets I don't know, man. He must have a heck of an agent because he's able to keep getting these contracts, and teams keep giving him multiple chances. Baker Mayfield, he'll always have a couple of good games, and it'll get you to kind of fall for Baker again. But I'm not falling for that. Matt Ryan, he's done. Mac Jones, I don't know. I think I'm a bit more split on him. I think his first year was good. But again, there's enough film and footage on him. I think he's a little bit too temperamental. That's not going to help at the quarterback level. And Russell Wilson, man, the fall from grace that he's had this year, I don't know. Are you able to actually recover? I just think the thing with Russell is he was always the guy that worked harder than others. I don't know if he does that anymore. And it's hard to do that, right? He's had a lot of success, and he's got a top. I just don't think he's at the top anymore. And I think it's hard because ultimately, I just don't think he wants it anymore. And he's got other priorities, right? The Sierra, the kids. His hands are full, man. He's not going, driving in and beating that Seattle traffic, getting into the facility at 3 or 4 a.m. anymore. And so I think once you lose that when you're Russell Wilson, that's what's going to happen, man. He has to put in that extra effort, and we'll see if he can do that next year. But I just don't know. All right, what do you got, man?
I think you raised a lot of good, interesting points, man. I don't necessarily know if we agree on the same quarterbacks here. I kind of made some notes on these guys. When it comes to Mac Jones, for example, man, I'm completely done with him. I think I've seen enough. I've seen 2 full years starting, and I know this guy is a middle-of-the-pack, backup-style quarterback. Nothing he does wows you. I don't get it, man. I truly don't. Yeah, his first year was all right. It was better than all right. Made the Pro Bowl as like a 7th alternate. That's great, but it's not working, and he's not doing anything more than what Cam Newton could have been doing for that team. So I don't get it. Matt Ryan, man, hey, he's had a great career. I feel bad trashing him here. He's done, and I think that's fair to say. Maybe a couple years as a backup, but there's no chance of him getting a starting role heading into next season. Baker Mayfield's an interesting one. I think he showed a lot of flashes, man, with these Rams. they were very injury depleted, and he didn't have a lot of weapons around him this season. Heck, Cam Akers was probably his best help, and he didn't even play for the starting Rams, if you know what I mean. So Baker's an interesting one on there that I think could potentially find his way into a starting spot. If not for the Rams, maybe another team that is desperate and looking for a bridge quarterback. Davis Mills, I'm a big Davis Mills fan. I think this shocked me to see that it was under 85 because he actually makes a lot of good decisions with the football. He doesn't have a ton of help. That roster down in Houston outside of the running back, and Juan, if you're listening, man, feel free to chime in on this. But that roster is terrible, and Davis Mills is not the problem down there in Houston. Kenny Pickett, man, the last few weeks of the season looked tremendous. He really did. I mean, he got it done. He did what was needed. The first 5 starts he had was awful and some of the worst football you can watch. So maybe it's Mike Tomlin just needs a few games with him to get him to roll. But I think it's way too early to write Kenny Pickett off, similar to what you had said. Carson Wentz, completely agree. Yeah, he had an MVP season, but how much of that was Doug Peterson? I just can't give him any credit at this point. He's shown absolutely no improvement. His first pass back in as a starter after his injury, picked. His last pass as a starter, picked. It's the same old Carson Wentz. Nothing changes. Russell Wilson, I'm not writing him off, man. Hackett was a bad coach, and one could say he absolutely could not hack it as an NFL head coach. I'm going to go ahead and we'll give Wilson another year. I think his sample size of what we have seen versus what was last year, it has to be an anomaly, right? That leaves me with my final quarterback, a guy that I still believe can be a 15-year NFL franchise quarterback, and that's Zach Wilson. Everybody seems to not like him. He's the villain. I'll take that, but the throws that this kid made at BYU were special. And a lot of people that talk football and have quarterbacked in this league praised him more than they praised a lot of other quarterbacks. I'm not ready to write off Zach Wilson. I think maybe a change of scenery, or maybe they bring a veteran into camp and he makes their life hell like he said he was going to do this week. But I think Zach Wilson starts for the Jets next year, and I think he starts every game of the season.